Hey everyone, welcome to Love to Create by Tanya. Today I'm going to be working on some farmhouse fall DIYs. And I actually found some of these items at a thrift store, and a couple of them I had in my craft bin from about a year ago. Now these two Valentine's Day signs from Dollar Tree, I'm just going to take them apart and we're going to cut them and shape them into a real funny shaped pumpkin. Now I'm going to take one of the hearts and just cut it in half, and you can see there where I'm just kind of placing them together to get like that big fun bottom of the pumpkin. I am going to trim off just a little bit of this down at the bottom to make it a little more even when it stands, and I'm going to use those little extra pieces to add the stem to the pumpkin. Now I'm going to be painting mine with almost what would look like a galvanized look in a way, and I just like the way that looks with my home decor, but you could paint this any color you like. I just thought the concept of using the hearts turned upside down made a neat shape for this pumpkin. And I did have two walls in my home that I still wanted to decorate with a fall theme. And so I thought for this wall, I've got two shelves on there, and I'll be showing that at the end of the video. Everything that we made in here today, I'll be decorating those two shelves with. Now you can see I'm just taking that little extra piece and adding the stem. Now I'm going to just start out with some of that gray chalk paint and some of that antique wax, and then I use a little bit of this silver metallic. And I'm just kind of blending these colors in different ways. The first thing I'm going to do is just put that chalk paint on there to get the board covered well. And then I kind of drag a little bit of the antique wax through just to get some different textures of color build up on here. And I decided just to try to sponge in a little bit of this metallic next. And after it dried, I really liked the way that it looked. And so I decided to keep it that way. I thought it would just be a fun design and something a little different. I have a lot of the rustic farmhouse kind of feel to my decor, and I just thought this had a really neat look. I do add, you'll see here in a moment, some of those copper colored leaves, and if you haven't tried painting your leaves with that copper color, I'm really loving that. I know that's popular right now. And this metallic silver, I have used that in some other videos to get that galvanized look. And matter of fact, mine is so old my label has worn off of it. And then you can see I'm just dragging a little bit of that black through there, just building up different textures on this. And I'm liking the way that it's turning out so far. You'll have to let me know what you think. I don't know about you, but I love it when you go to the pumpkin patch and you see these really odd, funky shaped pumpkins. Now here I'm going to be taking just some of the leaves off of the garland that I had purchased at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to dab some of that copper metallic color on there. And I think I did purchase the copper paint at Michael's. And you can see as I start getting everything on there, it's really starting to come together. Now I'm going to take some of those little pit berries and just glue to the top here, and then I'm going to take some of that rope twine and just wrap around the stem. Now I am going to take some of that brown postage paper in the roll that you purchase at Dollar Tree, and I will cover the back just to make it look neater. I always like to finish the back with something if I can. Now I do take a little bit of my glitter glue and just kind of dab little bits on the berries and the leaves, just to add a little bit of sparkle. Now here's the little Valentine's sign that went across. I'm just going to take what leftover paint I have and dab it on there to cover up the word Valentine, and then I take some of my white paint and go over it because I'm going to be putting some black letters on the top there. Now I'm going to take and use the letters that I have purchased at Walmart, and you probably heard me mention that in several videos because they really have lasted a long time. I have gotten quite a few projects out of that. And I love how this is turning out. It's all brightened up, and now we're going to go ahead and cover the back. And then after I get this back piece on, I'm just going to hand write on the front of it, Farm Fresh, and then pumpkins 50 cents. And of course you always want to take that little black marker and kind of go around the edges. That kind of finishes off that farmhouse feel. Well everyone, I'm really happy with how this design's turned out so far. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments below. And we still have 3 more that I'm going to be doing on this one to decorate my shelf in the living room. Now here is 3 of my thrift store finds is these pumpkins that definitely need some love. And I have decided to kind of paint them to match my decor. So I'm going to take and use that copper metallic on this small one. And I just love how this turns out on these ceramic pumpkins. Now the next pumpkin, I'm just going to take and mix a little bit of that white and that silver metallic together. I actually do end up covering this up because I'm wanting a little richer tone on this. So I end up pulling just some dark gray out later on in the video. But I'm going to go ahead and let that first one dry. And of course I wanted to paint the larger pumpkin just with white. And I did just use white acrylic paint on this one, which you could use the white chalk paint, but I happen to have my white acrylic handy, so that's just what I put on there. And I did do a couple coats on this. Now after these dry really well, I do go back in and I'll start working again here on the leaves, and I just did a really dark green. I think it might have been like a thistle green maybe, and I purchased that one at Michael's. And I just wanted to really have that darkness on the leaf. Now here's where I pull up that dark gray. And then I decided to take my rope twine and just go into these little creases, and I'm liking how this is turning out. I'm really happy with it. My first thought on the stems was to paint them, but I just couldn't find a color that I really liked, so that's why I went with the rope twine. Now the only thing I'm going to do next is add a little bit of some greenery to the stem area, and I'm going to call these done. Now this next DIY, I did lose some of the clip, but here it is. That is just a thrift store basket. I took some of my leftover fall flowers, popped them in there. I didn't glue them down. I just placed them on a piece of foam. And it's just a fun idea to do because that way you can take them out, and I set them on my shelf and they turned out great. Now here is the next one that I did. This is an old blind that I decided to repurpose from the thrift store. And these little, I think they may be like a little wood or bamboo, but I just cut them off and then I started weaving them together like the inside of a tobacco basket. And then I'm going to end up taking some of that antique wax and just putting on here. And I'm going to add the wax just to kind of darken it up because I thought that would look really neat on my gray wall behind it. Now I am just going to dabble this on with a sponge. And I just dab it on the front and just a little bit on the back, and I really like how it's turning out. And I still have a lot of that old blind left to work with, and I think I could come up with a lot of fun spring projects for this one too. Now here's those wreaths. They finally got back in at Dollar Tree, so check out your Dollar Tree. I know they haven't had these in a while. And I'm just going to glue that there to the center. And then here was just a box lid that I pulled out of my craft thing, and I just cut it out, and I'm gonna take the marker around the edges, glue that on the front, and like I said, I'm just using up some of my supplies that I have. And sometimes it's just fun to do that. Just dig in your craft box and see what you can come up with. I think that is some of the most creative projects. Now this is some more greenery that I had in my craft box, and I'm just gonna glue that around, twist it up in a funny little bow, and I'm going to pull out a couple of these leaves that I had and just glue one to the top and bottom. I had a little rope bow that I had already made up. I'm just going to pop that on there and add a few little pine cones. Well everyone, I think this one is done. Here's a picture of it setting up, and now we're going to move on to our last DIY. I found this vase that was already painted white at the thrift store. And I liked that it was white, so I decided just to freshen it up with a little bit more white paint. And then I took that black marker and kind of went around the edges to make it look scuffed up. And I added the rope twine that was on it back to it, and added a few of my little pine cones. And here's my finished shelf. And I think it turned out great. I'm really happy with it, and I hope you are. You'll have to let me know what you think of my wall decor in the comments below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you do so. And if you have, I thank you for your support. Well everyone, I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I will see you the next time.